You were about to say it, and then you felt that tiny reflex to soften it, to make it easier to receive, to make yourself smaller before anyone else could ask you to. Maybe you laughed after speaking, as if to dilute the power of your own words. Maybe you added, "I don't know, it's probably nothing," even though it mattered. Maybe you edited the message 3 times until it sounded like you didn't care. And I want you to know something right away. You're not imagining that reflex. You're not weak for it. You're not too sensitive for noticing it. That instinct to dim is real, and it has a history, and it has been trying to protect you for a very long time. Just take a slow breath with me for a moment. Feel the air move in and out, as if your body is reminding you that you are here now, in this moment, and you don't have to rush to become safe. Safety can arrive gently. You don't usually notice the moment you dim, because it happens in the space between one heartbeat and the next. It can look like being nice. It can sound like being humble. It can hide inside humor, politeness, over-explaining, over-giving, over-apologizing. It can even disguise itself as spiritual maturity, when what it really is underneath is a fear of the consequences of being fully seen. Have you noticed how the urge to shrink often arrives right when you're about to be honest, or right when you're about to be proud, or right when you feel joy rising in your chest? Somewhere deep inside, you already know this. The parts of you that dim are not your enemy. They're not here to sabotage you. They are loyal. They learned the rules early, and they've been trying to keep you included, accepted, and safe. There was a time when dimming kept you safe, and your system learned that lesson beautifully. Maybe it was in a home where you were praised when you were quiet and punished when you were expressive. And maybe you were the one who had to be the responsible one, so you learned to tuck your needs away. Maybe you learned that if you were too happy, someone would take it from you, mock you, or make you feel guilty. Maybe your confidence triggered someone else's insecurity, and you paid for it. With coldness, with jokes at your expense, with subtle rejection. And so your body remembered, not just your mind, your body. Your shoulders learned to contract when you spoke. Your voice learned to soften at the end of a sentence like a question, even when you were certain. Your eyes learned to look away when you were praised, to keep the attention from staying too long. You learn to preempt criticism by criticizing yourself first. This hasn't been easy, carrying a light that wants to shine in a world that sometimes feels hungry to judge it. So many people are walking through this exact transformation right now, feeling exactly what you're feeling, the push and pull between wanting to be seen and wanting to stay safe. And yet here you are, still open, still searching, still willing to tell the truth to yourself. That takes more courage than you realize. Let that settle for a moment, because it's important to hear, like something you can hold when you're learning to walk in a new way. And when you use it, pair it with a physical gesture, hand on heart, feet on the floor, a longer exhale, something that tells your body, we're here. Because your body already recognizes this truth. It's just learning to trust it consistently. As the days pass, you may notice small shifts. You may notice you speak one sentence without softening it. You may notice you receive a compliment without deflecting. You may notice you share something you used to hide. You may notice you don't explain yourself as much. And each of those is a miracle, not a dramatic one, a real one. Now we come to the sacred close, and I want to bring you back to the beginning, to that moment right before you dim. The next time you feel that reflex, I want you to remember this conversation as if I'm sitting beside you, quietly, kindly, reminding you. You don't have to disappear to be loved. You don't have to be smaller to be safe. You don't have to edit the truth out of your own mouth. You're allowed to be here, as you are. Your light is not a problem to solve. It is a gift to inhabit. And yes, some people may not know how to meet you there. That doesn't mean you're wrong. It simply means your life is reorganizing around what is true. The way a tree grows toward the sun without asking permission, the way it doesn't apologize for reaching, that is you now, remembering something ancient. You can shine without proving. You can shine without proving. And if you forget, if you dim again, if you shrink again, you can return with kindness. You can place your hand on your heart and say, I am safe enough to be honest right now, and take 1 degree brighter step forward. Because your heart already knows this. You didn't come here to hide. You came here to live. You came here to love. You came here to be seen, first by yourself and then by the world in the way that feels true and safe and sacred. And in that space, your inner light shines, not because you force it, but because you finally stop dimming it and you let yourself be exactly who you are. What if your fear of shining isn't a flaw, but a loyal protector that's simply living in an old chapter? When you understand that, something changes, because then you stop fighting yourself. You stop shaming the part of you that hesitates, and instead, you begin to meet it with kindness, the same kindness you've given everyone else. Here's what I've come to understand. You don't dim because you don't have light. You dim because at some point, light became associated with risk. Light meant attention. Light meant expectation. Light meant jealousy, criticism, or being asked to carry more than you could. Light meant being the strong one, the gifted one, the one who should know better. And when those labels are heavy, the soul starts to crave invisibility like water. If you've been feeling exhausted after social interactions, it's because you've been doing 2 things at once, showing up and also monitoring yourself to stay acceptable. That second job is invisible, but it costs so much energy. It's like trying to breathe while holding your breath. And yes, I said that. Holding your breath. Just notice right now, is your jaw tight? Are your shoulders lifted? Is your belly pulled in? You don't have to change anything forcefully. Just notice, because noticing is the beginning of freedom. One of the most overlooked ways we dim is by translating our truth into something more acceptable before anyone even responds. We predict people's discomfort and we cater to it. We predict someone's misunderstanding and we over-justify. We predict someone's envy and we hide the good news. We predict someone's rejection and we reject ourselves first so it won't hurt as much. And that is such a tender thing because it shows how deeply you want belonging. So let's speak to the heart of this gently and honestly. There are many ways to dim, and some of them are so subtle you might hack. We call them personality. But I want you to see them clearly, not to judge yourself, but to free yourself. Sometimes dimming looks like you tell a story and end it with a joke, so nobody realizes you're serious. You succeed and immediately list everything that went wrong, so nobody thinks you're proud. You feel hurt and say, "It's fine," so nobody has to meet you. You have a gift and keep it hidden until it's perfect so nobody can criticize it. You want something and you ask for it, like you're apologizing for existing. You feel joy and you brace for the crash because joy once felt unsafe. Does any of that feel familiar? And if it does, I want you to hear this with softness. You learned these moves because they worked. They reduced friction. They reduced conflict. They kept you connected. They kept you included. And now they are costing you. Because every time you dim, a quiet grief accumulates inside you. It's not dramatic. It's not always loud. It's a subtle heaviness, like living slightly outside your own life, like watching yourself from a distance, like being present, but not fully here. And your heart knows this, because your heart is the part of you that refuses to settle for half-aliveness. Your light was never meant to be a performance, and it was never meant to be a weapon either. This is so important because many people swing between two extremes. They either hide their light completely, or they force it outward in a way that feels sharp, like armor, like I'll show them. But your true light isn't sharp. It isn't something you prove. It's something you allow. It is presence. It is honesty. It is the quiet dignity of being who you are without bargaining. And the way you get there is not by becoming louder. It's not by becoming harder. It's by becoming truer with yourself first. There's something happening inside you when you're about to shine, and most people don't know how to name it, but once you see it, everything becomes easier. So let's open that door gently. When you're about to be visible, when you're about to share your truth, your gift, your joy, your confidence, your nervous system scans the room for danger. Not just physical danger, social danger. The danger of being excluded. The danger of being misunderstood. The danger of being judged. The danger of being made wrong. If you grew up needing connection to survive, your nervous system learned that belonging equals safety. So anything that threatens belonging can feel like a threat to survival, even if you're an adult now, even if you're capable now, even if your life is stable now. That's why just be confident doesn't work. Because this isn't a mindset problem. This is a safety problem. And the beautiful thing is, safety can be cultivated, not through force, through gentle repetition, through new experiences, through truth delivered slowly enough that your body can believe it. Let's talk about the sacred difference between being visible and being exposed, because your body needs to know it. Being exposed feels like standing naked in harsh light with no choice, no protection, no boundary. It feels like being seen by people who haven't earned access to you. It feels like vulnerability without safety. Visibility is different. Visibility is you choosing to be seen from the inside out. Visibility is you deciding what is sacred and what is private. Visibility is you letting your light exist without needing to pour your whole life into someone else's hands. Do you feel the difference in your body when you hear that? You're allowed to have boundaries and still shine. You're allowed to be radiant and still be discerning. You're allowed to be open-hearted without being open-season. And if you've ever associated shining with exposure, of course you'd want to dim, of course you'd want to hide. That makes perfect sense. So here's the first integration truth I want to offer you. Your light does not require your self-abandonment. Just let that land. Your light does not require your self-abandonment. You can shine and still say no. You can shine and still rest. You can shine and still be private. You can shine and still be tender. You can shine and still be learning. You can shine and still be imperfect. Because your light isn't perfection. Your light is your essence. Now I'm going to name something gently that many people don't like to admit. Sometimes we dim because we've been taught that shining is arrogant. We confuse radiance with superiority. We confuse confidence with cruelty. We confuse being seen with taking up too much space. But true radiance doesn't say, I am better than you. True radiance says, I am here fully, and you are allowed to be here fully too. Light doesn't compete with light. It recognizes it. If you've been surrounded by people who treat life like a competition for attention, then shining can feel like starting a war. And your kind heart doesn't want war. Your kind heart wants harmony. But there is a harmony that comes from shrinking, and it is not peace. It is quiet resentment. It is self-erasure. It is a soft form of violence toward your own spirit. And I know that might sound strong, and I say it with love, because you deserve the truth that frees you. So what do we do with this? How do you actually stop dimming in real moments, in real conversations, in real relationships? We begin with one simple shift. We stop trying to fix the dimming, and we start building safety around the shining. Here is a practice you can try the next time you feel that reflex to shrink. It's small and it's powerful, and it doesn't require you to push through fear. When you feel the urge to dim, pause for one breath, just one. Place a hand somewhere you can feel yourself. over your heart, on your belly, on your chest, and silently say, I am safe enough to be honest right now. Not forever, not in every room, not with everyone, right now. I am safe enough to be honest right now. Then choose a 1 degree brighter response. Not 10 degrees, not a dramatic leap, 1 degree. If you were going to downplay your success, you simply say, thank you, I'm proud of this. If you were going to apologize for having a need, you said, this matters to me. If you were going to laugh to soften your truth, you let the truth stand for 2 extra seconds without a joke. If you were going to edit your message into emptiness, you send the version that actually sounds like you. 1 degree brighter. Your nervous system can learn 1 degree. It can't always tolerate a sudden floodlight. And we don't need to traumatize you into growth. Growth can be kind. This is important to hear. The goal is not to become fearless. The goal is to become loyal to yourself while fear is present. And when you do this, just 1 degree brighter, you begin to create a new association inside your body. You begin to teach your system, I can shine and still be okay. That's how healing happens, not in theory, in lived experience. Now, there's another layer here that deserves tenderness because it's often the one that breaks people's hearts. Sometimes you dim because the people closest to you benefit from your dimming. Not because they're evil, not because they don't love you, but because your old role made their life predictable. Your old role made them comfortable. Your old role kept the system stable. If you were the peacemaker, your light might look like truth-telling, and truth-telling changes everything. If you were the helper, your light might look like receiving, and receiving changes everything. If you were the low-maintenance one, your light might look like having preferences, and preferences change everything. If you were the one who never asked for much, your light might look like wanting more, and wanting more changes everything. When you stop dimming, certain relationships will feel noisy, not because you're wrong, but because the old contract is changing. The unspoken agreement of, I'll be small and you won't have to grow, begins to dissolve. And that can stir up guilt, grief, and fear all at once. So let's create a soft place for that inside you. This hasn't been easy. Realizing that being fully yourself might disappoint people, might shift dynamics, might require honest conversations. Many souls are walking through this exact doorway, feeling the same trembling in their chest, and yet here you are, listening, opening, allowing. That is strength. That is devotion to truth. Now let me offer you a reframe that can change everything when guilt rises. Guilt is not always a sign that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt is simply the feeling of breaking an old rule. If your childhood rule was don't outshine, then shining will feel wrong at first. If your family rule was don't talk about feelings, then honesty will feel wrong at first. If your relationship rule was don't make it complicated, then having needs will feel wrong at first. But wrong is not the same as harmful. Wrong is not the same as unloving. Wrong is not the same as unsafe. Sometimes wrong is just unfamiliar, and your body can learn unfamiliar slowly with compassion. Here's an open loop I want to place gently in your mind. There is one sentence you can say that ends dimming at the root, because it rewrites the belief that your light hurts others. I'll share it with you soon. And first, I want you to see why your light was never the problem in the first place. Many people believe that their light creates jealousy, conflict, distance, and yes, sometimes when you shine, it does reveal what's unhealed in others. But that doesn't mean your light is wrong. It means your light is honest. A candle in a dark room is not aggressive. It's simply visible. When someone is uncomfortable with your light, they're often meeting their own shadows, places where they feel inadequate, unseen, unloved, and their discomfort doesn't mean you should go out. It means they are being invited to find their own flame. You do not have to manage other people's emotional comfort at the cost of your spirit. Let that land, because you've been carrying that job for too long. Now remember that sentence I mentioned? Here it is, and I want you to feel it in your body before you decide what you think of it. My light gives others permission to shine. My light gives others permission to shine. This is not arrogance. This is leadership. This is love. And you can repeat it quietly when the old fear rises, not like a spell, like a truth your nervous system is learning to trust. Now let's go deeper, because I want to speak to the parts of you that still worry. If I shine, I will lose people. Sometimes you will. And I'm going to say that with great compassion, not as a threat, as honesty wrapped in care. But here's what is also true. If you dim, you will lose you. And the loss of you is the most painful loss because it happens quietly. It happens while you're smiling. It happens while you're being fine. It happens while you're being everything for everyone. You deserve to have you. So how do we handle the fear of loss without becoming hard? We practice what I call gentle visibility, not dramatic declarations, not burning bridges, gentle visibility. Gentle visibility is when you stop denying your truth, but you also stop trying to convince anyone. You simply exist as you are. You stop over-explaining. You stop pre-apologizing. You stop translating your soul into something easier to digest. You become clear and kind. Clarity is kindness, especially to yourself. And there's a key phrase I want to anchor into your heart because it will hold you when you forget. You can shine without proving. You can shine without proving. Say it again inside. You can shine without proving. So often we dim because we think visibility means performance. We think we have to be impressive. We think we have to be certain. We think we have to be perfect. We think we have to be together. And your heart already knows this. You don't have to be impressive to be radiant. You only have to be real. Now let's talk about a very specific moment where dimming shows up for so many people. The moment you receive a compliment. If you've ever heard, "You're amazing," and you responded with, "Oh no, it was nothing." I want you to see what happened there. You didn't just reject the compliment, you rejected your own visibility. So here's a gentle practice that can change your relationship with shining in the simplest way. The next time someone offers you appreciation, you breathe and you say, "Thank you," and you let it be enough. No explanation, no deflection, no return compliment to equalize it. Just, "Thank you." Feel what happens in your body as you imagine saying that. Does your chest tighten? Does your mind scramble? That's the old chapter speaking. And you can meet it with tenderness. "I know, sweetheart. We used to need to be small. We don't need that the same way anymore." Because part of shining is letting goodness touch you without flinching. Now let's speak to the deeper spiritual layer of this, the reason your soul is asking for this now. If you've been feeling a stronger pull toward authenticity lately, it's because your inner life is maturing. Your spirit is moving from survival strategies into soul strategies. The coping mechanisms that once served you are becoming too small for what you're becoming. That discomfort you feel when you dim, that heaviness, it isn't punishment, it's guidance. It's your inner light saying, "I can't live behind this curtain anymore." And maybe you've tried to ignore it. Maybe you've tried to be fine. Maybe you've told yourself you should be grateful and stop wanting more. But your wanting more isn't greed, it's growth. Your desire to shine isn't vanity, it's truth. Now I'm going to offer you 3 grounded ways to stop dimming that don't require you to become someone else. They will feel like coming home, not like self-improvement. First, learn your dimming cues. Your body signals you before your mind names it. You might feel a small clench in your throat, a flutter in your stomach, a heat in your face, a sudden urge to speak faster, to fill space, to justify. Those are cues, not enemies. Cues. When you notice a cue, you can pause for one breath and ask yourself a simple question. What am I about to edit out of myself? What am I about to edit out of myself? That question is like turning a light on in a room you've been walking through in the dark. It makes unconscious shrinking conscious, and once it's conscious, you have choice. Second, practice selective intimacy. This is where your discernment becomes sacred. Not everyone deserves access to your light at the same depth. Some people can hold your joy. Some people can't, yet. Some people can celebrate you. Some people will compete with you. Some people can honor your growth. Some people will try to pull you back into the old version of you. This doesn't mean you're superior. It means you are wise. So you choose where you shine deeply and where you shine softly, and both are okay. Third, create a daily moment of private radiance. This one is simple, and it is profound. Every day, for even 2 minutes, do something that is fully you, without anyone watching, without anyone approving, without anyone consuming it. Sing in your kitchen, write a paragraph you never post, dance for one song, speak an affirmation out loud and mean it. Put on something that makes you feel beautiful, even if you're staying home. Light a candle and sit quietly with your hand on your heart. This tells your sis, Tem, my light is safe with me. Because the first place you must be visible is inside yourself. And when you build that private safety, public visibility becomes less terrifying. Now, I want to circle back to the pain beneath dimming, because there's a tender grief there that deserves to be honored. Sometimes you dim because you were punished for being bright, not always overtly, sometimes with silence, sometimes with sarcasm, sometimes with being ignored, sometimes with being told you were too much, too loud, too intense, too sensitive, too emotional. And maybe you believed them. Maybe you started to believe that your light was inconvenient, that your feelings were burdensome, that your desires were selfish. I see that. I honor that. And I want to tell you something very clearly. You were never too much. You were simply in the presence of people who didn't know how to hold a full human being. Let that land fully. Your sensitivity is not the problem. Your depth is not the problem. Your joy is not the problem. Your truth is not the problem. You are not the problem. Now, because we're being real, shining will bring up fear. It will. And it may happen in small waves. You might notice that when you shine, you immediately look for the mistake. You search for the critique. You anticipate the backlash. That's the old chapter again. And we don't shame it. We soothe it. Here's a practice for that moment. When you catch your mind scanning for danger after you've been visible, you gently say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, and I'm safe enough now." Then you return to your body. Feel your feet. Feel the weight of you in the chair. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale for a few breaths, as if you're telling your system, we're not being chased. This is how you rewire. This is how you integrate. And as you move forward, you may begin to notice something, that some people respond to your light with relief. They soften. They become braver. They tell the truth too. They stop pretending to. Because your light is contagious in the most beautiful way. My light gives others permission to shine. Feel how different that is from my light makes people uncomfortable. It's a new story, a truer story. Now I want to share a brief story, just for a moment, because it illustrates this so clearly. I once knew someone who would always speak in a gentle whisper in meetings, even when she had brilliant ideas, and when others spoke loudly, she would nod and say, "That's great," even if she had something better to offer. One day, she told me she didn't want to seem pushy. She didn't want to make anyone feel small. And I asked her very softly, "Who taught you that your brilliance hurts people?" She went quiet, and then she said, "My family," not with anger, with recognition. The next time she spoke, she didn't become louder. She just stopped apologizing for having a thought. And something shifted in the room. People didn't hate her. They listened. Some were surprised. Some were inspired. And later one person said, "I'm glad you said that. I've been holding back too." That's what your light does. It makes honesty possible. You're being given the same invitation right now. And maybe you're thinking, yes, but what about the people who don't respond well? What about the ones who make me feel guilty? What about the ones who call me selfish? I hear you. So let's talk about the real-world bridge, because shining isn't just an inner decision. It's relational. It touches dynamics. Here's what I want you to remember when someone reacts to your light. You don't have to argue with their reaction. You don't have to shrink because of it either. You can simply stay with yourself. You might say, "I hear you." You might say, "This is important to me." You might say, "I'm not available for being spoken to that way." You might say nothing at all and simply remove your energy. Your boundaries are part of your light. And if you've been taught that boundaries are unloving, please hear this. Boundaries are how love stays clean. Clean love doesn't require you to disappear. Now, I want to name something else that often keeps people dim, and it's so rarely spoken aloud. Sometimes we dim because we're afraid of what our light will ask of us. If you truly shine, you may have to change your life. You may have to stop tolerating what drains you. You may have to take yourself seriously. You may have to honor your gifts. You may have to move, speak, create, lead, choose differently. And that can feel like standing at the edge of a new chapter with no map. So if part of you is afraid, it makes sense. And we don't rush that part. We invite it into trust. Here's a gentle question you can ask yourself when fear arises. What would my light do today in the smallest possible way? Not in a grand, dramatic way. Today, small. Maybe your light would rest instead of proving. Maybe your light would say no instead of overgiving. Maybe your light would tell the truth instead of smoothing it over. Maybe your light would apply for the thing. Maybe your light would share the art. Maybe your light would stop laughing at jokes that hurt you. Small, real, doable, 1 degree brighter. Now I want to guide you through a short, embodied moment, because your body is where this becomes real. Wherever you are, just soften your gaze and take a slow inhale. Feel the breath fill your chest. And as you exhale, imagine releasing one old rule you've been living under. Maybe it's, don't be too much. Maybe it's, don't make it about you. Maybe it's, don't outshine. Maybe it's, stay small to stay safe. On the next inhale, imagine inviting a new rule that honors your soul. Something like, I am allowed to be seen, or I belong to myself, or my light is safe with me, or I can shine without proving. Let that settle, not as a demand, as an invitation. Because this journey isn't about forcing yourself into visibility. It's about coming out of hiding inside your own life. And there is a tenderness in that. Now I want to offer you one more pattern recognition statement that can help you trust what's happening. If you've been feeling restless with people-pleasing lately, it's because why? Our inner truth is getting louder than your old coping strategies. The part of you that used to be satisfied with keeping the peace is now craving integrity. And integrity is peace, the kind that doesn't cost you your soul. So when you feel the urge to dim, don't panic. Don't shame yourself. Just recognize the moment as a doorway and walk through it gently. You might not do it perfectly. You might dim sometimes. You might retract and then regret it. That's okay. Healing is not a performance either. This hasn't been easy. Learning new ways to exist, new ways to speak, new ways to take up space. Many souls are learning this alongside you, stumbling and rising and learning again. And yet here you are, still willing. That willingness is your light too. Now we enter the integration, the part where this becomes something you can actually live. I want you to choose one touchstone phrase, one sentence you can return to when your system gets scared. Here are 3 options. Let your heart pick the one that feels like relief. I am safe enough to be seen. My light is not a problem. I can shine without proving. Choose one and practice it for 7 days, not like a rule, like a handrail